So, hi, we are here for our BioGraffs workshop with my dear friend and person I hugely admire, Jennifer Beeman. And Jen is also a film editor. She's made incredible documentary films. Anyway, I started doing BioGraffs because Jen shared them somehow, and I got myself a kit and I loved it. I just loved it so much. And it's really one of the few things that I have found that it's so easy, and it's just right here. I have mine sitting here, wait, ready to go. It's just sitting by the side of my thing, my little bag of things. It's just so easy to just say, whoa, God, my head is a mess. Okay, hold on, let me do a biograph. And every single time I get surprising clarity. It's just there's something about the moving of things. And so I just really want to get the word out so people can have them, and Jen can have a thriving, successful business. And so that's what we're here for today. And that's my intro. Take it away, Jen.
Hey, thank you so much, Mary. It started as an interactive installation I did where people could use cubes to talk about their sex life, which was so it was called the Graphic Sex Project. And it was a way to sort of make talking about sex, which a lot of people have a hard time doing, fun and engaging. And then you have this fun thing to show your partner and say, hey, let's talk about, Um, and so I did that for a while, but I realized that it was a really powerful thing for lots of things, not just sex. And that's when I changed it to BioGraphs. And I have a product that you can buy. It's a very nice set with the two magnetic boards and the cubes and the magnets, but it's really at its core, it's really a method. Um, I call it a method of visual storytelling. And in a lot of ways, it grew out of my work as an editor, because I feel like that is also visual storytelling and uses a lot of the same elements of thinking about story and thinking about how everything is a story and everything is a story, has a story arc, even like the stuff in your head. And I think telling those stories, being aware of them and telling them is really powerful, because we don't usually think of them as stories, like your what happens with your mother every time you go to see her, conflict in that relationship or how you think about your mother. I don't know why I'm focusing on mothers, but um, that's a story, and it has, how you think about her or how you think about what happens when you're with her is a story. And I think thinking of it like a story can be really a powerful way to connect with it, see it from a different perspective, understand it better. So when I say it's a method, I mean that anything um, where you have an object that doesn't, I call them contextless objects. It's just an object, it doesn't mean anything. Although a cube kind of has an association with, here are my cubes, with toys, it has a sort of a place, a little bit of a playful aspect, but it doesn't mean anything. You give it meaning, and then you arrange it in ways that have spatial metaphors, happy things are higher and sad things are lower. Those are, in your palette. um, the way you arrange things gives it meaning, and you can move it around, and that connects you to this thing in a different way. And you can move it around visually, and you can arrange it visually, and that connects you to this thing in a different way. So that's why I call it a method. And you don't have to, I mean, I would love it if you would buy one of my lovely kits, but you don't need to. You can do it with, little cut up pieces of paper or little cut up pieces of fabric, or nuts and raisins. Where each nut, where so a pistachio is um, um, a heavy feeling of sadness. If you're making a biograph about, what your experience of your depression is, say. And a raisin is not wanting to interact with people. So like, and now you've got this thing that's complicated in your head. You've got it. Now it's a raisin. And you can move it around and you can see how your raisin relates to your pistachio. Um, So that's what I mean when I say that it's method. And it is like Mary, I find it really helpful in my life. I think it works for a certain kind of brain, maybe that likes this kind that is fine. That one, I think people who ruminate a lot, have a lot of stuff spinning around in their head. And sometimes you've got, 10 plates spinning around in there that and some of them are, conflict with each other. And it's hard to sort of grasp onto them. And so this is a way to get the plates out of your head and onto a palette that you can see. So I also find it a really helpful way to just to practice kind of like journaling. Some people use journaling in the same way to get it's a way to get your thoughts out of your head. It's an externalization exercise. Um, so but I don't like to journal. And journaling requires, constructing sentences to at least some degree. And this doesn't really. And this is visual and this is tactile. So it's like visual tactile journaling.
This is my first intro to it in any capacity whatsoever, and it is so genius and it is so in line with a lot of the work. I don't want to even talk about my stuff. I just want to hear everything that you have to say about it. But like I really resonate on
Mm.
like a very I mean like it's really cool. So what you're doing is awesome. And I'm
Oh,
here for the
thank you.
ride. And I'm
Thank you
because
so
my
much.
brain does it, my brain works this way too. And I have my own system, but that's another thing.
Mhm.
But like I'm just like here to learn. So this is awesome. Mhm.
Mhm. My plan was to take some time for everybody to kind of try it and make one so that we could so you might when we do a breakout. Does everybody or if nobody does, then we won't do that part. So we're going to take a pause. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to demonstrate making one. And then I'm going to suggest some prompts that people might be interested in making one about. We'll take 15 minutes for everyone to try it out. And then we'll talk about that experience. So that was my plan. And I guess no one has a
No, no,
set.
I do. I
You
was just
do,
gonna say, this is
yay.
my
Oh,
set. It's little bits of colored glass that I glued onto magnets. And
oh, perfect,
yeah,
Rhonda.
so I
Wonderful.
definitely would love to. I mean, I hope everybody gets a chance to do something. I mean, like you said, you can just go get a bunch of nuts or, go outside and collect some stones, but I would love to have a chance to practice.
Yeah.
One of the things I found I have is colored office supplies. Like I have these paper clips that are different colors. I have thumbtacks. These are things that I personally just happen to have in multiple colors. Maybe
Mhm.
someone does have nuts. Maybe you have candy in the house. And Dawn just said I have a bag trail mix, so it'll probably work just great. So I just
Yeah.
emphasize it doesn't matter what it is. There's something in your house that this will work for. Or go get some colored paper and cut it into little cubes while Jen's talking.
Yes, that will work too. You need, something around, I mean, you need a fair quantity, 150, something like that. In the kits that I make have 10 colors, which is usually enough for people. Um, so you need 10 variations of a small object. So like Kimberly mentioned stones from the garden. Anything that you have a lot of and that they have variations. So
Yeah, like maybe 10 small stones, 10 twigs, 10 leaves, 10 big stones, 10 clumps of dirt,
there you go. Yeah.
10 dead
Yeah.
bugs. You know,
Yeah. They have to be dead because if they're alive, they'll crawl
yeah,
off the board. So
live
you
bugs will mess with your process.
so the process is to start with um, a prompt, and I like to call it actually a title, the title of your biograph, this thing you're making, and that title is something that's been on your mind, something that's troubling you. It might be what's blocking me. Could be a title of a biograph. What happens when I choose my previous example when I visit my mother? What I wish my relationship with my mother was like. Some situation that happens to you regularly that's difficult, like what happens when I go to a party, what happens in my social self. a typical conflict with another person. These are all sort of the beginnings of a biograph. This is the story you're going to tell. I'm going to tell the story of recurring conflict I have with this person. And so you take this prompt that you're going to start with, and you break it down into its parts. So what do I mean by a part? Like if it's a conflict that I have with another person, one part is they say this thing that always triggers me. And another part is my heart starts to beat faster. And another part is I say something cutting. And then another part is they storm out of the room. So these are all of the parts of that story of this conflict that repeatedly happens, or that happened yesterday that disturbed you. And so you're going to take each one of those parts and you're going to assign it a cube. And so I'm going to just start to make one myself to sort of demonstrate how this happens. So you're just going to see how it happens. But before I do that, does anybody have any questions or something they want to say about what they've heard so far? Because I don't want to talk the whole time. So, anybody relate to this, or does anyone think when I was repeating that was talking about those prompts or saying, did anybody have something like pop in their head like immediately? Oh, I'd make one about this.
I like thinking about it and relating, and I'm wondering, like, my mind goes to like a creative project that I'm trying to figure out, where all, like, there's so many moving parts to it that I can't hold them all in my brain, and so I kind of get stifled. So for me, I can see obviously the relational part, but my brain keeps going toward the creation part.
Mm-hmm.
How useful it is, a tool to work a creative project. I'm thinking, I haven't even seen it yet, but like that's what my brain is doing.
That's what I almost always use it for, Kimberly. For me, so far, I've almost always used it to work through something I'm trying to figure out that is essentially more project-y. Like I want to accomplish something and I'm hitting blocks, or I can't figure out. So just to say, that's exactly how I tend to use it.
Yeah. And I would imagine it also makes it easier to know, to be able to separate the wheat from the chaff of your ideas. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the process of breaking your story down into its parts.
Yeah.
Powerful part of it. You're like, what really are the elements of this, that bubble to the surface? And so in the process of it, you're thinking about your part, and you just start writing down the things that occur to you that are part of that. What do I need to, so did anybody else have something to say, or I'll just dive right into just making one, because sometimes it's easier to just see things. Something that's very present in my life right now is this sense that I'm like I don't know what to do in the morning. And I find that I'm like not motivated to do the things I need to do, and I like waste the whole day. And I don't know, I'm trying to find a job. I'm out of work. I'm trying to build BioGraffs. I mean, I got all these things I need to do, and I'm having a hard time making myself do it in the morning. So I'm going to make one about um, what I wish my mornings were like. And I'm hoping that this could be like an inspirational biograph for me, that I think if I make, how I would like a morning to go, maybe that'll connect me to that tomorrow morning, in a way that's good, because I'm really struggling with getting this happening. So this is my I'm going to call it a better day. Um, and so now I'm going to just sort of think about what are the parts of that better day, like how that would be, the things that would make it better. And then I wouldn't feel bad at the end of the day because I didn't do anything all day. And so now I'm just going to think about the aspects of that day. And I don't want to write a ton of words. Like I want to keep it to just one or two words, just enough so that I remember what that cube stood for. So getting out of bed right away seems important because sometimes I'll just lie there for a very long time. Tidying up might be a good first task. I'd like to start a habit of singing to like hear my own voice and this sort of fun as I'm gonna that's one thing I'm gonna try doing. What I'm realizing as I'm doing this is sort of a morning to-do list, like to have a better morning routine. And I think that would actually help me a lot. I need to look at my to-do list. I have a bunch of to-do lists and they're sort of scattered all over and I never even look at them as part of my problem. I think all of these things are, not about not ruminating. I'm going to make not ruminating black. um, just sort of just the basic morning stuff like brushing teeth and all. If I start the morning right, I think all of this will feel inspiring to do the other things that I have to do. That will make me not depressed. So this will be anti-depression. So that's pretty good start. I have a bunch of things that are that are parts of this story that I want to tell. And now I'm going to start building a biograph now in this space. I made sure I have lots of space here. This is the legend, to make something that shows how these things interact. So depending on the kind of the story you want to tell, there's different ways that you can lay things out. And this I call an event timeline. And that means this is my morning and this is how I want it to go. I'll do this and this and this and this and this and in various proportions. And I might arrange them in ways that have more meaning, but basically it's a timeline. The other way I could do this is more like a mosaic where I'm just arranging them, not so much in a time order, but just in relation to each other. But I think I'm going to do it like an event timeline. So that's really the simplest sort of graph. So it's good to give you that example. So, I don't feel like I have to get out of bed right away. I think it can take me a little time, but I think I need to limit it, like, because sometimes I'll lie there for 2 hours, like looking at my phone, and that is the worst thing. So actually, I'm going to add that no phone. I'm trying to break the habit of spending a lot of time on my phone. I think that's adding to my sense of depression. So this is going to be, I'm going to block this out. Definitely no phone for this period in bed in the morning. And then I'm going to do, just get up and go and do the few things that I have to do, like wash my face and brush my teeth. And then I think I'm going to tidy up and I'm going to scatter it around a little bit because that's representing sort of all of the places in my life I have to tidy up. So I'm going to tidy up. And I think actually that I should do, now that I think about it, maybe that's something that I should do while I'm singing. Kind of like the Barney song. Wasn't there like a Barney, like clean up, clean up.
Everybody,
That's
everywhere.
hilarious.
So,
I actually have a morning song I'll share with y'all later.
oh, really? No, that really just occurred to me that I could put those two things together. I like that. I think starting the day with music and tidying up is a great idea.
I just want to say, I so
Yeah.
appreciate we're watching you think this through, right? So there you had the tidying up, and then you're like, wait a minute, maybe the singing. And then I'm just pointing, I know this is obvious, but I'm just saying it, pointing out now the biograph represents the singing during the cleanup. There's this visual solidity about it. And I'm just pointing this out since we're in a workshop
Mhm.
environment, how helpful
Yeah.
it to see that process, that this is in line with your thinking as you go here.
Yes,
I,
yes. Thank you, Mary. It's also, this is a spatial metaphor, the fact that I put the singing and the cleaning together. And I think that we're, as humans, we've got so much metaphor baked into our language. It's how we think about the world. Everything is metaphor. And so this, putting the cleaning and the singing together, scattered because I'm moving around the house and the two are sort of walking together. This is a metaphor, and you don't have to think that hard about it to come up with that as you're making it. You're letting the cubes represent these things. How do they relate to each other? How are they occupying the space on the canvas together? You'll do it instinctively, and then you'll notice it afterwards. You'll go, oh, okay, they're dancing together here. It's like they're dancing around the house, cleaning up. So yeah,
I
thank you for pointing that out, Mary. Did
I
somebody
had a
want to say something?
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question about like the way that you stacked the morning stuff
Mhm.
and what you just said there about like how the things relate to one another is going to inform how you place them on the board. I was looking at the stack of morning stuff and just thinking that it looked like a barrier. You know what I mean? Like a
Mhm.
line of demarcation from one thing to another.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and I didn't understand that, like it was creating this like confusion in my mind until
Oh,
you just explained it just now. I was interpreting it as a barrier and I didn't
right,
understand why, but now it makes
right.
sense to me.
Right. So I love that you brought that up. I don't know who that was talking because I couldn't tell. But but thank you for saying that. And I think that's I mean I could explain my reasoning for, I mean, to now it seems to me like I'm lying down, like this is me lying in bed and I'm lying on this platform of not using my phone. So but I could see that it could have a different interpretation from someone else. And so, is that Dawn who was
Yeah,
talking?
that's me.
Yeah, hi, Dawn. So that's, I think, after you've made it, that is the kind of the line of inquiry that you can take into your own biograph. Why did I put it like that? And sometimes it occurs to you later, oh, I do feel like that's a barrier.
Because I could
Seeing that it's a
see,
barrier, maybe that is a barrier. You know,
yeah, if you suffer
mm,
from like executive dysfunction, that
yeah,
and that's kind of like how like my internal experience, almost how I was
right,
reading
right.
it is just like I can't get out of bed because I can't transition from laying down to brushing
Uh-huh.
my teeth. It's just like
Right.
this
Yeah.
overwhelming insurmountable thing.
Yeah. No, actually, I loved it because you're seeing things in it that I didn't see, but now I kind of do see once you're pointing it out, like that I made these are going this way, and then this is going up, right? So it's almost like I've gotten up, with the
Maybe if you did it as
from
stair
horizontal
steps.
to vertical. I've gone from
Right?
horizontal to vertical. I didn't really see that. And I usually think of vertical lines like this as a barrier, not so much horizontal lines, but there's I think there's a lot there in just this simple arrangement that you pointed out, that there can be so much. And then if you if you make one of these and then you share it with someone else, like maybe there's someone I want to like talk to about my difficulty with motivation, maybe that's my partner or a friend or my therapist or something, then I can take this to them and say, I want to tell you the story of this thing I made, what it means, and they might bring their own interpretations with it that we can kind of talk about together. And it really focuses the conversation on, this problem now, this solution, so it gives this visual anchoring to an interaction if you share it with someone else or if you just share it with yourself. So thank you for that comment, Dawn. So as I was talking to, I realized that I want to put some do not get on the phone in here too. I like want to keep reminding myself, don't look at the news. um, and then go to my to-do list. And this whole thing is, has like I'm going to say that it has a, uh, a platform, kind of a support network of not ruminating. This is what I'm trying to avoid, is the ruminating. And I think all of this, with the bed too. Maybe I'll spread them out a little more. I think not ruminating is the goal that is supporting all of this activity. With the end result of not being depressed, and I think this, once I start tackling my to-do list, then I'm just going to, for the rest of the day, I'm going to be tackling my to-do list. But I think that all of this beginning, this solid beginning of my day, will translate into being inspired. And so I'm going to make something that kind of leads from this mess here into my to-do list, kind of infects my to-do list with inspiration.
Now I have a question about the to-do
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
When do you create your to-do list? Do you create it
Well,
the day
you know what?
before, or
I have like a to-do list in like 4 places now, but they're all over, and I kind of need to look at them all. And this is both looking at my to-do list and tackling my to-do list. I guess I'm thinking about it that way, that all these brown things are then all the things I'm going to do. That pretty much encapsulates what I wanted to say with this. And then I would, like, as we've been doing, as I've been making it, thinking about how I've arranged things and what that means. And I think also having this as a visual, I take a picture of it in my phone. Maybe I'll look at that at the thing I've made in the morning as a reminder of, this is what I want to do. This is who I want to be.
Yeah, I have done that too, Jen. What recently, I've just put them on my lock screen on my phone, my biograph. In fact, recently I did a biograph where it was on the left was how it was right now, and on the right was how it could be if I changed it. Like sometimes you just reorder the things and they've all. And so I took a picture of how it could be and just had it on my hot lock screen to remind me of what. So I just wanted to acknowledge that's a thing I do too, and it
Uh-huh.
serves as kind of a reminder and an inspiration. Yeah.
Yeah. Still call this a timeline, but Mary mentioned other, like I also talked about the mosaic, which this in some ways is moving into mosaic territory, the way it's all sort of scattered around and visually. So, but the one that Mary mentioned was more like this type of a biograph, where you've got all the same um uh categories. Your legend is the same, but here's how I am now, here's how I want to be, or here's how I was, here's how I am now, or this is how the kind of parent I want to be, this is the kind of parent I am. You're comparing two things, two sort of sets of values or sets of things that happen, one circumstance, another circumstance. So that's when you think about what your prompt is, then you think about, well, would this be more like a timeline, or would this just be a design, or do I want to compare two things? So maybe we should just talk about like what you're thinking about this, if you've thought more about what you'd like to make your biograph about. I guess I'm thinking, if people are still feeling like, I don't know what you're talking about, or I'm confused, I'll show you some more. And if everybody's like, oh, I know exactly what I want to do, I'll say, let's try that. How are you feeling?
I'm not confused. I'm blown away by the brilliance of this. And I appreciate how Jungian it is, right? Like it's like a Jungian sand tray. Are you familiar with that?
Oh, I definitely am. I think of it really as like it's sand tray therapy for adults.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
you're with the sand tray therapy, the kid's taking the dinosaur, and the kid's not saying, this dinosaur is my dad because I'm scared of him, but the therapist might notice that. Whereas this, we're going ahead and assigning it. This is just, the yellow cube is feeling sad. And then playing with it, manipulating it, and making it, making the characters play together. So yeah, it's very like sand tray therapy.
It's great. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely think let's go ahead and do one. And people can always just ask as we go if you're like confused or that's sort of my hunch, Jen.
Okay. Okay. Like,
Oh, great.
I'm about to cut these into little squares to make myself one.
perfect. Perfect. That's a good way. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Dawn says that she has a box of Legos. That's perfect.
Does everybody have something they're gonna that they know that they have to fool around with, even if it's not perfect? And if not, can I help you?
Sharon?
Well, what I did um is I wrote things down, and I actually used your better days because I'm going in and out of depression and I don't leave my apartment sometimes. I had wrote two other things, and then when you came up with the better days, I chose yours and I added a few of the things that you mentioned, and I wrote red square, orange square, black square next to the task. And I wish I could color it in, but I do have like colored markers, but they're at the other apartment.
Yeah.
And but so what I'm gonna do is color it in when I get the markers.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But I put better days. That was really good. I said, oh, I'm gonna use that. Morning routine, get out of bed, because sometimes I'll sit there for 2 hours, lay there. And the tidy up is the red square, and then meditate daily, orange square. Stop procrastinating will be the black square, and write daily, which is going to be the blue square, and go outside. Sometimes I stay in the apartment for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a purple
that's good.
square.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna color it in another
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you can definitely just use a pen and paper, or like you said, maybe markers in the future. It's good if you can come up with something that's movable. Because I think that the tactile, there's two reasons, and you could totally proceed with the way you're doing it. That's completely fine. But if in the future, if you want to keep doing this as a practice, look for something that you can use that's movable around. And one reason for that is that you can move it. So like you can create it and it can keep like evolving. You can look at it, inspire, and then think, I really need these to go more here. And you might move it around and you might interact with it in a way that changes it for you. Like definitely there's some interaction with it that can continue when they're movable. And I think that that's also you're working your whole body in it, you're moving and you're feeling and you're hearing, and it adds to the tactile experience of it. And I think that's an important part of this, is wanting to experience this story that you're telling. That's one thing. And the other thing is that the cubes, and moving the cubes around in this way, lowers the bar for being like artistic and creative. And for some people, that's a barrier, like feeling like if you once you take a pen in your hand, you feel like you have to make it's easy to feel like, oh, this is just cubes. It doesn't have to be beautiful. But sometimes you put a pen in your hand and you feel like it has to be beautiful. So I like how the cubes lower the bar for people who don't feel like they're an artist. Anyway, those are my two reasons why I like the objects. So if you can come up with some for the next time you do it, I recommend that.
Yeah, yeah. So whatever you're doing today is great. And then, I just, Kimberly, show us what you're doing there, because this is just such a good example of a pretty easy, and now Kimberly's an artist, so she has paint there and it's natural for her, but look, she's got her cubes now.
Yeah.
I just made strips of paper of each color. I just have a box of markers, so I was just kind of coloring while you were doing your thing. And then, so right now I'm just trying to see if I did any math correctly whatsoever. And so I don't even know how many I actually made. So right now I cut them all up and then I was like, oh crap. Now I don't know
Like
how
when
many
I
I
first
did.
started doing it, now I have this gorgeous set that Jen made, so I'm totally in favor of getting them. But I didn't at first. I think maybe Jen didn't have the set ready or something.
Mm,
So I
yeah,
bought myself colored magnets and a whiteboard. I just did it,
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I could have done it with not magnets. So just to be clear, get yourself set up that you got your stuff ready for the next time so it's ready to play with, and then you're free to do it. So when you do that, just the 10 by probably 20 is a good goal to aim for if you're gonna give yourself time to get it ready, because obviously you can cut 20 squares as easily as you can cut 10 squares.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut the squares.
There you
That's
go.
why I labeled it, red, black, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm gonna cut them up and just like what Kimberly did, and then make a nice board. I think the moving, I agree, is gonna help.
Yeah.
It's like putting
Yeah.
energy in there.
Yeah, yes, that's a great way to put it, Sharon.
Yeah, to
Energy in
get
it.
the things moving.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, you know how many times I write, I'm going to do this, and I like the to-do list because I write a to-do list. I like this.
Yeah, and actually, let me say, I'm hearing this also as a really pretty good argument for creating for yourself a magnetic version or buying Jen's, which is, I hope it's okay that I say this, Jen, because we're saying make it. I literally just bought these little colorful magnets on Amazon and a whiteboard. It was super easy. But the nice thing is you get it there and it stays, right? But then
Right,
later,
you got to move it
know
around.
what? You can just sit down and play with it and move it around. So it's got just enough permanence that you can leave it sitting where the cat can't get at it. But just enough impermanence that you can rethink it a little later or
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Her Mag Plus is great. By the way, if anybody, I'll show you at the very end. So I do want to make sure we see Jen's awesome products because they're really good. But as she said, this is more about process than anything else. And she's a generous soul. So that's her main focus.
I'm very eager to buy your magnet set when that becomes an option for me because I saw your video on your thing, and the person who was talking about the sound of the magnets clicking on
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
that
yeah.
tactile sound. Do they also stick to one another? Like if you put the magnet, another one on top of that magnet, will they stick to each other?
No, they don't stick to it. They're just magnet on the bottom.
On the bottom. Okay. Yeah, but like I just think that's really and I wanted to say this too. The kind of art that I do, I work in the realm of sacred geometry. And everything has to do with as above, so below. And if you can create something in geometry, if there's a bridge they want to make and they can draw it on the paper, you can draw it in the material world. Like that's how geometry works. But anything you anchor in one world, it is anchored through another. And so what you're doing is you're really anchoring a reality, and it might only live in blocks and colors, but you've made an intention. You said that it means this, and then you put it next to that thing, and it means that now. Like it's real magic what you're doing.
That is so
Yeah.
that's so cool, Kimberly.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Yes, yeah. So if you make a biograph of an intention, then you have just as you're saying, you've anchored that intention in your,
Yes.
because you're not just thinking about it, you're touching it, you're feeling it, you're seeing it, you're hearing it.
On it.
It's like it's hitting it, it moves it all around into all the different parts of your brain instead of it just sort of sitting in the one place in your brain. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, in fact, it's another way to think about it. I just thought of is you've actually created the reality you want. You have now built it in a place you can see it and perceive it and experience it. So it has a reality for you, and of course, obviously, an extension into the. Yeah, beautiful. That's nice to point out. Thank you.
And then I was thinking, I like that magnet thing, because I could put it on the refrigerator and
Yeah.
then I could move it in
I
thank
love,
you.
I've never thought of that, Sharon, that yes, you could do it on your refrigerator.
And then I could move it in the morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so once I
If
get
you
to
use
bed,
markers on a refrigerator, will they just wipe off? Maybe so.
Well, it's
Yeah,
a
you
magnet.
definitely can.
You
Well,
say
yeah,
that
but you want to label each one with the word, so you want to write. So I think you could probably write on your refrigerator with a whiteboard marker, and it would wipe off. Yeah, and then that would be that visual in the morning to inspire you.
But
Yeah.
it's a good idea because it's like moving energy, just writing it out
That's
and
the
putting
thing.
arrows to the purple
Yeah,
square and the
yeah,
green square.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I feel a bit better now, especially because you wrote Better Days.
Better
So I'm
days.
gonna definitely use that.
All have better days. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let's take it's noon now, and I have a hard out, I'm sorry to say, at 12:30 because a friend of mine, their father passed away and the funeral is at 1. So I've got to run at 12:30. Yeah, but let's just take 10 or 15 minutes for everybody to work on theirs a little bit, and then we can talk about that afterwards. How does that sound?
Perfect. Hey, y'all, I just want to note it's 12 after, and I just thought I'd check in. How you doing there?
I was been playing around with it since Jen started talking.
Oh,
So
perfect.
I have really gone through, wow, a whole story that changed. I got emotional at a certain point and still feel kind of emotional about it. But I was just, wow, it was very interesting for me. And one of the things that I noted, my biograph was called Men and Me, and I did it about my relationship with men. And one of the things that I noted that was sort of interesting was the how many were left over. Like I noticed that there's a lot of fear dots that were left over that I didn't use, a lot of hope dots that I didn't use. I used a lot of love and loss of freedom and surprise and delight. So that was kind of a biograph in and of its. This isn't the biograph, and I'm going to tip it and hope they don't all fall down. But
Oh,
I ended up with sort of two biographs. One was the feelings I don't have so much anymore, because there were so many of them left over that I didn't end up using, which was sort of delightful to me. And then I have the one that I did do. And again, I'm going to, maybe I could do it this way.
yeah, yeah.
And right, I'll tip my screen without tipping the, all right. So I don't
So
know
each
how
one is
well you
one
can
person.
see it. Oh, sorry?
Each one is one, each row is one person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I'll explain it and like I said, as I changed it, I got very emotional. The first relationship was my father, so my dad. And there was a lot of love, a lot of fun, a lot of these white ones of surprise and delight. And then he died at a rather young age, at about 57. And I found that my future felt like it was being pulled along or pushed along by worry and fear. And, again, this is what I discovered in laying these things down. I never knew this, but this is what I discovered here, that, when he died, I felt like my future, what was pushing it was worry and fear. So then I married young. I married my first husband, and that relationship was about worry and fear. I married him out of, worry that I would never find anyone like my dad and fear that I would never find anyone like my dad. And I ended up the red is disappointment. And I realized in doing this, the disappointment was me, disappointed in myself for making that choice. And this one, the dark black, is a feeling of loss of freedom. I felt like because I blamed myself for doing that to myself, I felt like I didn't have the freedom to choose anymore. I wasn't in my right mind. And this area represents my future, which now felt like it was being pulled along again by hope and worry, still worried.
Mhm.
So I entered my second marriage, mostly worried again. And again, I had this great disappointment in myself. And this one felt like sort of a downward thing. And then
Yeah.
it came up. And at the end of it, this again is this green one is the future. Didn't realize it at the time, but my future was being driven by loss of freedom. Again, being afraid that I would do this again and have this extreme loss of freedom. So this is where I feel like I am right now. I still have a smaller sense of being afraid of loss of freedom, entering a relationship again and having it cause me to feel this loss of freedom. But there's some hope, and there's a little bit of worry in the hope. There's a little hope here, the green, and a little bit of worry that I could find, again, this kind of sense that I had all the way at the start of my relationship with men, like a foundation of surprise and delight, a lot of love and a lot of fun. And I noticed that I had this surprise and delight sort of leading into what these felt like my future, these little dots at the end. So now it feels like instead of the future pushing, pushing me along with worry, pushing me along with fear, pushing me along with loss of freedom, fear of loss of freedom, I feel like the surprise and delight is driving my future. That's the thing that's pushing the future now. So this was very emotional for me.
Wow.
Still,
Thank you. Thank you for sharing all
thinking
that.
about it, it's very emotional.
Yeah. It sounds like you realized a couple of things that you hadn't really thought of or put into the.
Absolutely. I began to have an inkling that I was really afraid this feeling that I was going to lose freedom again was sort of lurking in the background. But interestingly, the loss of freedom stones that I chose were bigger than all the others
Yeah.
and denser, very black.
Yeah.
Unlike all the others, which are kind of translucent stones, this one
Uh-huh.
has no translucence and it's
Oh.
bigger than all the
Uh-huh.
other stones.
Yeah. And that feels
So,
meaningful. Yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting too how you kind of made two in the sense that, what was left had some things to
Yeah,
do.
what was left over had a
Yeah.
lot of significance for me. What I feel the most of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Rhonda.
yeah.
That was beautiful. I got so much. I feel like I understood something so deep about you. I don't even know you, but because you had the colors and the capacity to articulate with the thing moving up, like you just like that was just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
really appreciate.
I'm glad you said that, Kimberly, because I do want to point out that this is a great thing to do with another person, a friend or therapist or, stranger on the street, just as like, because each person makes something that's deeply meaningful to them and then shares it just as Rhonda did, sort of telling the story of it. And the other person, has this anchor to hear their whole story. It's a really different way of talking to someone because you kind of require everyone to hear hear you out, hear the whole thing, which doesn't happen in conversation a lot. So it can be a deeply bonding experience to do it with another person and share your stories that way. Just as we've had that experience with Rhonda, I also feel like I don't know you at all, but I feel like I do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, wow, super beautiful. Thank you, Rhonda, for sharing something so beautiful and also for being such an awesome example of what BioGraffs can do. Like the whole process of doing, that was just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, yeah. I wasn't going to make one because I just made one 10 minutes ago. But then I thought, well, I'm just sitting here, I might as well. And I made one about something else that's been bothering me. And I'm not going to take the time to go through the whole thing in a lot of detail. I just wanted to comment that I, you know, there's a conversation need to have with another person that I've been avoiding for a really long time. So I was like, what is keeping me from it? And just the process of thinking of what the things are. I think Rhonda, you went through the sort of same process of, what are the things, that are parts of that story. uh, I'd never put labels on them before, and putting labels on them and then seeing where it took me as I was arranging them. I think I really realized I think the most interesting thing that's going to keep me thinking is listing all the things that I'm afraid of, why I'm not having this conversation. And one of them I listed was fear of inflicting pain on another person. And then when it came time to arrange them, I realized that I didn't know what to do with that and fear of inflicting pain. And it made me kind of start to question, is that something I'm actually afraid of? You know, maybe I mean, I like to think that, that, you know, sort of selflessly, I'm worried about their feelings, but then I started to think, how worried actually am I about their feelings? Because I couldn't figure out what to do with the blue. So I think that's something I'm going to consider more about what's really getting in the way of me having this conversation.
Yeah, great. Wow. Does anyone else have one that you'd like to share with us?
I'd like to share mine because it's really interesting because you did something about what you're avoiding in a conversation, and mine is things I avoid and where they belong.
Mm.
So I just was kind of realizing that a lot of my stuff sometimes has to do with me avoiding stuff. So I mean, I'm gonna turn it. Well, it doesn't really matter, but it's upside down for you guys, I guess. But what I did is I decided on some like exercise and meal planning and stuff like that that I avoid doing, but then made blocks of time of day, and like, because in my brain it's like, oh, there's just so many things, but somehow blocking out morning, midday, and evening, it's like, oh, well, that's, you can't make doctor's appointments in the evening, so like that's something that's going to have to live in this other part of the thing, so now it has a place where it belongs versus like it's just a thing that I can never do because every time I think of it is the wrong time. It's like, well, no, so anyway, it felt good to like put a little bit of time boundaries and like where things would fall so that I can see my day as not so like soupy. Yeah, and I look forward to doing this with more depth and in a more grounded way where I have some space because I really appreciate it. It was really great.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's can be used for so many different things. Like, you can think about, how you're gonna plan your day, what you're going to do in your day, how organize your work. What is, like you're doing some project for work or whatever, what are the elements that you have to do in this project, anything that would benefit from visualization. So it can be very kind of, work related, or it can be very emotionally deep, or, it can be, what you struggle with, what you're unhappy about, what you aspire to be, what you aspire to have, what you love about your partner, what you love about this person in your life, what you hate about this person in your life, or it really anything that's in your life that you're working on, it has a story attached to it by because everything has a story attached to it, and so you can always visualize the story this way no matter what you're working on.
Yeah, the process of doing it really clearly is the discovery. you know so
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tool is a vehicle for the process, and I just love that.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share about your own process or your own biograph? I'll share about mine a little bit, just real quick. I'm in kind of a transition in my life. I guess we always are, but right now it feels quite vivid. And so I was thinking, what is important to me? And I titled it Trusting Myself, the Process, and the Universe. And so this is a development that is important to me, not just in accomplishing certain things, but also a way of being in my life. And so the elements I came up with were vision, peace, desire, fear and anxiety, and then work, rest, and play, which I put all together because I was characterizing that as kind of like the doing and delight, because I do love my work. So work, rest, play. Trust and surrender, presence, diligence, accomplishment, and love. So these are the elements. And so I said how it was. And I was going to do now and forward, but I thought, no, I want to acknowledge how far I've come. It felt very important to me because I've come so, 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 so far. And without that being part of the conversation, didn't feel right to me. And I'd never done that before. So that was already a way I haven't done BioGraffs before. I've usually done how it is now and how I want it to be. But this time I did how it was. And how it used to be was fear was sort of at the base of kind of everything. And then I try to put diligence on top of the fear, you know, and I would use diligence to dress the fear. And so there would be some work and rest and play in there. Like I've always enjoyed my work, and it did lead to some vision and some desire and some accomplishments, right? But no trust, no peace, like all this stuff. And then I've been through a whole process. So this is like the process, and the process was about trust and surrender and presence. Like I've done a lot of being very present to myself, coming back to the moment, doing a lot of breathing, a lot of nervous system work and stuff like that. Trust and surrender and presence. And diligence was sort of a part of that. Like that was really a focus of my diligence for a long time. And peace began to grow out of it. I didn't get all the way through on this. And so how it is now is more like the fear is surrounded by love. Like I still have fear, but I'm very loving towards it in a way. I used to just try and sort of suppress it and work harder, you know? And then the vision and the desire are also held with love, you know? And so that leads to diligence. There's some diligence that comes out of that and presence. And I haven't gotten to how it can be, but this is, I'm in process on this. And so I just thought I'd just share that with y'all.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love that.
And again, I'm just totally doing a sales job on the Mag Plus because look how
I'm sorry, I have to
Really
pop off
done.
for my funeral. I think Mary might stay for a little bit more. You're all going to get an email from me asking, you know, if you have a few words to say about how the workshop was. Maybe I'll actually send you like a little questionnaire, you know, that. But I would love it if you feel like writing something about that it was meaningful for you or what you got out of it, that I could, you know, put on my website anonymously from as a review. I would love it if you would respond to that. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I hope you got a lot out of it. And I did. I actually came up with some things that I hadn't realized before. So I got a lot out of it too. So
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
thank you. Everybody have a
Jennifer.
great day and stay warm.
I'll be in touch. I'm very glad I tuned in.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. I'm so glad.
All right, so we still can wrap up slowly here. We can just wrap up slowly here rather than have to leap off. So if anybody, A, would like to share your biograph, B, has any questions, and at the very end, I'm just going to do a little show and tell on the Mag Plus and on Jen's other things, just in case you want to buy it. Again, Jen is so kind and easygoing, but I do want to support her business. And I will tell you, we're talking together about, I mean, we're just partnering. I'm not part of her work at all. I'm just her friend, but we're just talking about how it might become something that she facilitates other people doing workshops. So there's a way that this work spreads. And so anyway, anybody have any thoughts, questions, or anything?
I'm going to also hop off and go, but I just wanted to thank you, Mary, for hosting everything. And it was really fun to just hear from everyone. So thank you so much.
Really nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Did she come up with this?
Yeah.
Because it does help.
Yeah, it's great. It's a
Even
wonderful tool.
yeah, even though I didn't have the actual pieces,
Yes.
just writing it down and coloring, well, not color, well, I assume we'll color the squares, but putting the color of the squares
Yes,
ne-
yes,
next to the task or the difficulty or whatever
yes,
felt great. So I can imagine when I put it on a board.
yes.
So this is really good. Did she trademark it? She better.
She's got a whole website. This is her business.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm going to share a little bit about that. I'll show you the website and stuff too, just so you've seen it and stuff.
I didn't really grasp it. I don't see how that would help me. I was focusing on Better Day and I watched her do it and everything. And it was just like,
I will say this, I think the doing of it can be really clarifying. So if you feel like giving it a try on your own at some point, you know, with anything at all, Lego pieces or make your own thing out of squares like Kimberly did. But you know, everything's not for everybody. So if this isn't for you, that's cool too.
yeah, I'm just not sure how it would get me into a better routine with doing those blocks.
Right. Again, I think the doing of the biograph is the process of revealing that for yourself. Like, I think you'd have to give it a try. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's a logical, like, do this and you'll have a better morning. I think what it is, it's more like, as you sit down and you label the elements of whatever the problem is, and then you sort of jigger them around, process of discovery for yourself that helps you understand how you might, for example, get your day better, you know? So it's actually the process of doing the biograph that is the revealing of what it is within you.
So is it like more blocks you put down is more of a problem?
You can go 1,000 ways. So
Oh, okay.
if you're really interested in this, Jen has an amazing website with everything on it, including, by the way, a digital version, which is
Mhm.
free online, where you can click and move blocks around. And
Okay.
um,
Yeah.
so it's biographs.com. And
Okay.
there's all kinds of wonderful videos on there where you watch people do it. But I will say this, I think the only way to sort of get the value of this is to
Mhm.
physically make a biograph. Just try it out and see. So just to be really clear, you need a piece of paper and a pen,
Mhm.
and then some objects to play with.
Mhm.
And it could be
Yeah.
anything, but honestly, colors are nice. So like what Kimberly did was she just cut little squares out of different colors. You could use construction paper, or she just colored it with a marker and then cut up the marker pieces. That
Mhm.
would be enough. I will tell you this too. This is what I used at first. These are magnets I bought on Amazon.
Mhm.
It was just, I think there were 8 colors, so not 10. But I just bought them on Amazon and they work great, and you can just do the same thing. So, and everybody, you can get. So if you want to play around with something more in an inexpensive version,
Mhm.
you don't have to spend any money. You can just give it a try. But the thing is, I don't think you can get the benefit of it till you try it.
Okay.
Just give it a try and see. It won't, unless you don't want to. But like I said, she's got the on-site tool. If you go to biographs.com, there's a link. It says something like resources, and there's something
Uh-huh.
that says, a virtual tool. You just click
Uh-huh.
it, and you have to sign in, create a free account, and then you can play with it all you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'm gonna definitely check that out. The digital one might work for me. Just writing it out
Yeah.
kind of unscattered my brain.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
That's yeah. So this, I mean, I'm about ready to try anything. I've been going in and out of this depression, and I'm glad she was able to share what she was going through, because I had 2 other titles and I said, no, I'm gonna go
Yeah.
with what she mentioned. You know,
Right.
some people, they don't want to share that
Yeah.
depression.
No, she's the real deal. She's in it for the real work, not
Mm.
some kind of like surfacey thing. That's one of the reasons I love Jen.
And I'm glad to be in contact with you again.
All right, well, thank you all so much for coming. And before we go, I just want to show you Jen's products. I'm going to share with you, first of all, her page. And it's biographs.com, as you can see up here. And it's got so many resources on it. And so I'm just going to give you a little brief tour. First of all, if you just scroll down, some really nice intros and lots of images of people doing biographs and videos of people doing biographs. So here's a video of 2 people doing it together, pictures of biographs people have done, frequently asked questions, etc. Right? And so then she's got this place where you can click on if you want to know more about how to use biographs for self-reflection or for relationships, for therapy, etc. So there's that. If you're a professional, more info on that. So it's just a ton of stuff. And then I would like to bring your attention to 2 things. First of all, the resources. So she has a whole bunch of exercises that you can try out to give it a try. So there's a whole bunch of specific exercises that you can do that she has laid out for you, and all this is free. She's incredibly generous. And then another thing is virtual tool. This is an online biograph tool. So what you can do is you can simply click on it and use it. Now I've already signed in. I might still be signed in. So you literally pull over the cube, you type in the yellow cube represents something. I'm putting hope. You hit done. And now your label is there and you can use the BioGraffs just like we did to build a biograph. Okay, so this is an amazing tool. If you want to use this, what you need to do is log in, create a free, sign in, create a free account, and then once you've created it, you do have to log in. So give this a try if you want. And then I finally want to take you to her shop and show you what she has available for you. There are these two main items in her shop. First of all, the BioGraffs Mag Plus. This is what I have. The Mag Plus is pretty amazing because it contains a lot of really cool stuff. It has in it 2 boards. It has a bag of these magnetic cubes. It has all these cards to demonstrate how to use it. And if you can afford this, this is an amazing choice because given the 2, you can use it with a friend or you can do 2 for yourself, or so it's
everyone has things that are hard to talk about.
And that's Jen's voice, you know her by now. So this is the Mag Plus. And then the other thing that I would like to show you is the smaller version, which is the Mini. So the BioGraffs Mini is only $35 and comes like this. It has a nice little bag and has all the wooden cubes in it, but they're not magnetic. So these are non-magnetic, and it also has all these beautiful cards to help you see how to do it, etc., etc. A book that guides you through, and it comes in this nice little pouch. So this is a wonderful, wonderful tool. And again, I know Jen is super generous and shows us how we don't have to have it, but boy, are these awesome. Okay, so finally, I just want to show you my Mag Plus just to show you how beautiful it is. First of all, she created this. Oh, let me stop sharing. First of all, she created this really lovely kit, and it's got a beautiful box that comes in with the, you know, the boards and the cards that you might want to use to learn more about it. And then it has this lovely little bag for all your cubes, and these are magnetic, and so they do fit. So if you can get a Mag Plus, I totally recommend it. And if you really can't afford it and you want it, you can make your own, as we've showed you earlier in the thing. And like I said, I bought these when I was first starting out, and she didn't have the kit for me yet. I bought these on Amazon, and they're just these little awesome teeny weeny magnets. So I just wanted to be sure and show you that before we wrapped up here. And so I want to say thank you so much for coming. We are going to be continuing to do more and more of this kind of thing in the Blissable community, where we're going to bring in some awesome expert and they're going to share something beautiful with us, and we're going to support our own process and support our community and support our connection. And over time, we're going to build up such a huge amount of resources that really in the moment, you need a tool, you have it. And that is the goal of the Blissaplan community. And finally, I just want to show you my BioGraffs dress. It's sort of, I usually think of it as my Mondrian dress, but how awesome is that? The little squares and cubes, squares and rectangles. So, all right, my friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day, and may we be great resources for one another to create a loving and peaceful world in which there's space for all of us.